Hello, and welcome to Healthy California podcast. My name is Linda Brown, and I am the host of Healthy California, where my goal is to help educate you on your daily choices so we all can become healthy. I believe you, your family, your neighbor, and your community are all looking for better ways and simple ways to return to being healthy. Many of you have health issues or have family that's going through tough times that seemingly have no answers. It's frustrating. There are questions about health, environment, foods, exercise, and lifestyle, and it can be all overwhelming. And who do you believe? And where's the science behind it? This podcast will unravel the mystery behind being unhealthy and talk about little things that we can do in our lives to make a positive change in our health from all angles. So to be healthy, we need to have physical health, mental health, environmental health, financial and social health, and of course, spiritual health. Let's answer some of these questions to get healthy. What good is just listening to a podcast? I will give you resources as well, ways to take steps and make positive changes in your life to becoming healthy. This is a journey, not an assignment, so be kind to yourself. Okay, thank you everyone for joining me. Welcome back to Healthy California. Today we are talking about chronic pain. There's different types of pain, but today we're going to talk about chronic pain. This is similar to my podcast on inflammation. A lot of it is similar, but this is just a little bit more detailed towards chronic pain. So what is chronic pain? Pain is just a normal reaction to injury, and it's warning us that something is wrong. So it's just our body's mechanism of telling us that something is wrong. Chronic pain is normally pain that lasts longer than 3 months. The doctor's definition is that, pain that lasts longer than 3 months. But as we know, chronic pain is a lot more involved than just pain that lasts longer than 3 months. Chronic pain syndrome includes pain that goes beyond just symptoms alone. So what I mean by that is like you have knee surgery that's expected pain, and it might last longer than 3 months, but it's just knee pain. Like chronic pain syndrome might be the pain in your knee from your knee surgery 3 months ago is now causing you to lose sleep. It's causing you to walk differently. So other parts of your body are aching. Maybe you have a little bit more stress. I mean, it's just these compounding other symptoms that comes along with the pain that you had from that knee surgery 3 months ago. So that's more of a chronic pain syndrome. And then there's this pain called nociceptive pain. You don't necessarily need to remember the name of that, but that's the pain that we typically think of when we talk about tissue damage. That pain involves the redness, the swelling, the heat, the loss of function that comes along, with when you stub your toe or have knee surgery. Then there's nerve pain. Nerve pain comes from damage to the nerve, and there's a lot of different reasons a nerve could be damaged or irritated. And it's not always a physical damage to the nerve, like you pinched a nerve in your back. There's other reasons why you would have nerve pain. But now think about, you have pain someplace, you take a pain medication and it doesn't even touch that pain. That could be because you have nerve pain when the pain medication you took was for muscle pain, let's just say. There's different reasons why pain medication might not work because there's different types of pain. And functional pain is just pain that there are no physical obvious signs of injury. Like let's say irritable bowel syndrome, there's no physical pain that you can see or put your hand on, right? Or chest pain, fibromyalgia. That's a type of pain that people have internally. It reduces their function or their daily living, and there's just no obvious signs by looking at someone that they have pain in their body. That's more of a functional pain. So why do we have chronic pain? Where does chronic pain come from beyond just it lasting longer than 3 months? Well, we need to relook at inflammation. The body is trying to fight off invaders and clean up damaged tissue. So if you had knee surgery, it takes a lot for our body to clean that up. To heal it, to clean it up. It sends swelling or fluid into the area to bring in all the good healing qualities, and then it gets flushed out and back into our blood system to take away all the bad stuff, bring in the good stuff, take out the bad stuff, bring in the good stuff, take out the bad stuff. That's normal. That is an inflammatory process that is necessary for us to heal. heal damaged tissue. So inflammation is something that we need to look at when it comes to chronic pain. And again, chronic pain is pain that lasts longer than 3 months, but it's not always just in one body part, not always just in the knee that has surgery. And maybe it's led to a chronic pain syndrome. And then we also have to understand that there's a mind-body connection. When it comes to chronic pain, we can't ignore the mind-body connection. We have this part in our brain called the hypothalamus, and it takes in information from the outside, it interprets it, and then figures out what to do with it. And that it does that for just about everything. So if we're too hot, our hypothalamus is going to help us to sweat so we can cool ourselves back down. If we're too cold, we're going to shiver so that we can warm ourselves back up. If we're dehydrated, our brain is going to tell us that we're thirsty so that we can drink more water to get hydrated. So the hypothalamus is like this center in our brain that responds to whatever comes in. So this mind-body connection that I'm talking about is your mind responding to that pain. And it's going to send out a response to do something to get rid of that pain. And so if you have like a normal response to pain is information comes in, our body does something about it. In addition to the mind-body connection, we need to look at how we approach pain. So we all have different beliefs about pain. Some people are very fearful of pain, and they'll do everything to avoid it, and they almost anticipate the pain. So everything kind of gets locked up. And then there's people who are accepting of pain, and they just know it's part of the process. And then there are people who welcome pain, and they're just like, bring it on. I know that I just had knee surgery, but bend it. I just need that. I can take it. And that's not necessarily the best approach either. But if you know how you approach pain, how you are, then that will actually help your healing process. So I heard this story once about this man who stepped on a nail and it came right through his boot. And he was in so much pain, he couldn't walk. I mean, obviously he had stepped on a nail. He couldn't walk. They had to carry him to a car, take him to the emergency room. The people at the emergency room couldn't take his boot off because he was just writhing in pain. So they took the x-ray with his boot still on, and come to find out, the nail never even went through his foot. It just went through his shoe, but you could see the nail go through the boot. It totally missed his foot. His foot was not even touched. And, when you think about that, the man probably felt a little bit silly, but that's the mind-body connection. And you see this nail come through your boot, and of course that would freak you out. So it's important to know how you deal with pain so that you can understand your response. That's actually a good part of your healing process. And it's not bad that you are afraid of pain. It's not bad that you are welcoming of pain. But if you go to a physical therapist and you know that you're going to anticipate the pain and it's going to lock you up, it would be good to know that so you can tell your therapist, I'm afraid. And then the therapist can approach you a little bit differently. So is pain good? Yeah, actually pain is good. It's good because it's necessary and it's a natural process. Our body uses it to protect ourselves. If you put your hand on a hot stove, you're going to pull it away real fast. That's a protective mechanism. So pain is good. But pain is not good for the long term. We need pain to protect us. But long-term pain is actually very damaging to our body and to our mind. We need to get rid of chronic pain. We are not intended to be in chronic pain. It sets off that stress mechanism in our body. If you go back and listen to last week's podcast on stress, stress can be very damaging to the body. And it's all about the mind-body connection. So why is this important? How do you know if your pain is considered chronic pain? Sometimes when we have chronic pain, it's pain that never goes away, and it affects other parts of your life, like sleep, stress, appetite, causes other pains, maybe affects your relationships. That can all be signs of chronic pain. And an example of that, when I talk about other pains, is in physical therapy, we often get people that come in and they've had knee surgery, and then they've had another knee surgery, and then they've had another knee surgery. So they've had multiple knee surgeries on different knees, and then they have shoulder surgery, and then they have back pain, and they have all these other things going on. And it's not about the fact that they were dealt a poor hand at birth, right? A lot of it is that their body is in a chronic pain state, and it's affecting them in multiple places. That's chronic pain when I talk about one pain could be causing other pains. Let's say you have multiple diagnoses that end in itis, ileitis, prostatitis, arthritis, all these itises. Itis means inflammation. And if you have multiple places in your body that end in itis, even otitis, like otitis is the ringing in your ears, that's all a sign of inflammation. And if you have more than one, you're probably chronically inflamed. If you've had multiple surgeries for different reasons, that could either set you off into chronic inflammation, or it could be the cause of chronic inflammation. So what was one the cause and the other effect? Is it the cause or is it the effect? I don't know. And maybe you might feel fatigued or tired. And we know that if you lose sleep, you are losing the ability to heal and recover. Because when you sleep is when you heal. So you need to sleep. And if you're not sleeping, you're not healing. Another thing that you should consider if you're not sure you have chronic pain, is just your extreme, what people might call an extreme or exaggerated anxiety about physical symptoms. People sometimes will say, well, this person over here has a low pain tolerance, or they're over exaggerating their pain. And I don't think that is true, honestly. I think there might be an exaggerated anxiety because of the fear of pain, but pain is still pain. So whether someone has a low pain tolerance or a high exaggeration to pain, it's still very real in their mind. So I don't think we need to discount that. In the medical field, we take a pain scale from 0 to 10 sometimes. Is your pain a 1 or is it a 10? Well, I've had this experience where this lady, she always came in, she was a 10 out of 10 pain, and yet she would walk from the bus station, she would throw her leg up on our counter. Please don't do that. She would throw her leg up on our counter and tell us how hard her walk was, and she would go to the bathroom and come back out. She would just kind of like meander through our clinic. And it's easy for us to say, well, she's obviously not in 10 out of 10 pain because she can walk, she can talk, she can throw her leg up on my counter. I want to take a second to share a helpful resource with you. I have a free health questionnaire designed to pinpoint the areas in your life that you need to focus on for optimal wellness. If you're interested, simply click the link in the show notes or visit heal-throughfood.com to access it. Now let's dive back into the show. And then we have another person that comes in and he can barely walk to the front door. He can't open the front door because it's too much pain on his back. And he would always say, no, my pain is a 2. Well, a 2 means that you're not even, it's not even affecting your life. I mean, you can still put your socks and shoes on. It's not affecting your life hardly at all. When people tell you their pain number, it's important to really respect what they say. Even though in your mind you're like, you're not a 2 or you're not a 10, but we're not in their body. So if they think that they're a 2, then we need to, well, one thing, we can educate them on what 2 really means. They may not know. Or we can just respect that, because the more we fight or argue with what their pain really is, actually the worse we're making their ability to heal. So don't argue with someone who is in pain. And don't, I'm going to say this because I see it often, and I used to work around people who were in chronic pain. Don't look at someone who is in a ADA parking spot and they just walk into the store as if they're not in pain, because you don't know what's going on in their body. They could be just barely able to keep it together. They might look like they're walking okay, but I just don't want you to judge people, because sometimes pain, you can't see it, and people can be very stoic. So I really just am trying to really discourage you. Pain is very sensitive, and I don't want you to judge people on how they look when it comes to pain. Okay, I'll get off that soapbox. How do we approach pain? Chronic pain. We know inflammation is involved, so we need to deal with the inflammation. And we know there are multiple sites involved, and there's always pain somewhere, and it affects our daily life. So we know all of that. I brought it all back together again because with chronic pain, if someone has inflammation in multiple sites, they come to you or even if it's your family member who has knee pain, and they have chronic inflammation in their body, but it presents as knee pain, you can ice that knee all day long, but it's not going to do a whole lot of good, or even it might just help temporarily, because the body has systemic pain. Their whole body's inflamed. So then it might be knee pain one day or 1 week, but if you don't heal the body from the inside, then you're always just going to have pain. So when we have chronic pain, we know inflammation is involved. We know there's multiple sites. We know there's always pain somewhere, and it affects your daily life. So that type of pain, you can't just ice it away or stretch it away. You need to work on it from the inside out. So there's a verse in the Bible that says, be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, and faithful in prayer. And that's Romans 12:12. And I think that it's hard to be joyful in hope when you have chronic pain and you've always had chronic pain for a while and you don't know how to get rid of it and there seems to be no hope. So I know it's hard to be joyful in hope, but sometimes when you look outside of yourself and find something to be happy about, as hard as that may be, it takes your focus off of you and the misery that you may be in. And then patient in affliction. So you're afflicted with something, chronic pain, and that is, it just takes a while. But you have to keep trying to get out of that pain. You got to do whatever you can to get out of that pain. And then the other part of that is faithful in prayer. And even if you're not a praying person, if you had two choices, to pray or to just sit there in your misery and focus on your pain, what would you rather do? You focusing on your pain is actually not gonna get you out of pain. So I just want you to think about that for a second. When pain happens, something is triggered. Your body interprets it as danger. It creates a pain signal, and then you respond to that. You respond to that danger. So for example, you put a hand on your stove, that's the trigger, sends a message to your brain, and the brain interprets it as danger. It sends a pain signal back down to your hand, and then you remove your hand from that hot stove. That happens in a fraction of a second. What happens if you have that pain signal, something is triggered, and a message gets sent to your brain that there's danger? It creates a pain signal, but there's no hand to remove from the stove. It's a different type of danger pain. What do you do about it then? Let's say, for example, you have a triggering response. I'm going to go back into childhood again. So let's say as a child you fell off of a swing and you hit your head. That can be a traumatic event. So let's say now you are an adult and you get triggered by, let's say, being out of control in your life. Your life is a little out of control, and your body perceives that as a trigger, sends messages to your brain as danger. Your brain interprets it as danger, and it sends a pain signal to your body. But then what does your body do? It can't get out of that pain because it's not like removing your hand. It's a trigger from a long time ago. That type of pain can lead to chronic pain, but we got to get rid of that, whatever it is that's triggering it. So that's when, you need to go to counseling or cognitive behavioral therapy, or find that whatever is that mind-body connection that is triggering you. And I keep bringing up that mind-body connection because it's a real thing. It's a real response. Your body does interpret a signal and it sends out that response to do something. But if there's not something to do, like remove your hand from the stove, then the body doesn't know how to deal with that. So that can also be part of the chronic pain that we need to get rid of. The signal never turns off. What happens if the signal never turns off? Then you're always in that fight and flight mode, right? You're always in that danger mode. There's always going to be stress. And your body can't differentiate the stress from, your emotional stress or your physical stress or physical injury, because pain is pain, stress is stress, and the body is, or the mind is trying to do something about it, but the body's not responding. How do we heal that? In our body, it's easy when we just get red, hot, swollen, pain, loss of function, because, you can ice it, you can stretch it. There's a time and a place for pain medication. We're talking about chronic pain. And chronic pain, the mind's trying to do something about it, and the body's not responding. So we need to look at that type of pain from the inside first. I'm talking about healing you from the inside. I'm talking about like the anti-inflammatory diet and giving your body everything it needs to heal. And I'll talk about that in a second. But we also need to look at that mind-body connection. I want you to be really truthful with yourself and see if you fall into this chronic pain category and if there's something in your past that needs to be resolved, and consider counseling. I mean, I'm being really very frank and very serious about this because there is a mind-body connection that too many times in our life we discount it. What are we going to do about the chronic pain in other ways? I had mentioned the anti-inflammatory diet. I want you to consider food to be your medicine. Your refrigerator should be your medicine cabinet. And eat the rainbow. When I say eat the rainbow, you've heard me say it before. We're picking out vegetables and fruits that are diverse in color and very bright because those are the foods that have all the micronutrients, like the vitamins and the minerals, the polyphenols, all the things, the antioxidants, everything that we need to heal ourselves are in the foods that are very colorful. And there is a time and a place for pain meds, but it's always meant for short term. Pain meds are meant for short term, never for long term. And you can even read that on a bottle, a medication bottle. It is never intended for long-term use. If you can't get out of your pain, then you need to figure out more natural ways to help your body get out of pain, because your body wants to get out of pain. Your body was meant to heal. Your body is meant to heal itself as long as you give it what it needs to do that. So what else can we do? We can sleep. We know sleep is when we heal. We can increase our water. Water is what we need for every cell in our body to do the processes it needs to do to make whatever it needs to make to heal. So we need to sleep well. We need to increase our water. We need to take electrolytes because electrolytes are our minerals. And a lot of times those minerals are deficient. We need to exercise, stretch, and just move more. A lot of times exercise seems counterintuitive because the last thing you want to do when you are in pain is to move. But movement is really good for you as long as you do it safely. If you don't feel like you need to move, then at least get like a massage or something to create circulation in the area. And exercise, if you are afraid of it, then hire someone to take you through an exercise that is safe. That's what physical therapists do. You can decrease your emotional stress, your physical injury. You can do breathing exercises to help reduce your stress. And I talked about that last week as well. You can seek help from a functional nutritionist, a functional medicine doctor, or a functional dietitian. Someone that's going to look at your whole body, not just your knee. A lot of times when you go to the doctor and tell them you have knee pain, they will give you something for your knee pain. But if you go to a functional medicine doctor or a functional nutritionist or a functional dietitian, then they will look at your whole body and understand that you need to sleep, you need to drink water, you need your electrolytes, you need to move, because they look at your whole body, not just your body part, and then give you meds. And then finally, what you can do is seek out a physical therapist. You know that I'm a physical therapist. You know I'm always going to be pro PT. A physical therapist can help you to learn how to move through pain, can teach you how to move other parts of your body so that you can give that painful body part a rest maybe. But either way, it is important that you move. The body was meant to move. And as long as you do it safely, if you don't know what safely means, then a PT knows what safely means. And side note, you should be seeing a physical therapist every year to be on track, to stay moving, to stay healthy, to keep your balance up. So you know that's my spiel on PT. That's everything you need to know about pain right now. If you have any questions or you can't seem to get out of pain, you know that you can always email me, and I'd love to help you through your pain. I can address that both from a functional nutrition standpoint and a physical therapy standpoint. And I have seen a lot of pain, and I have been through a lot of pain myself, so I know how to navigate that. And I'll talk to you guys next week. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you learned something new. Health care and treatment should focus on being proactive and preventative, emphasizing the importance of addressing the root cause of a disease or illness. While the U.S. has an excellent trauma medicine system, helping patients when problems arise, our goals should be to prevent disease before they happen. That's why this podcast is so important to me. If you're needing further guidance or have questions on a particular matter, you can find my contact information in the show notes, where you can set up a 15-minute consultation. I also recommend you adding a functional nutritionist, a functional medicine practitioner, and a physical therapist to your healthcare team. This podcast reflects my personal opinions based on extensive research and education. It is not intended for medical diagnosis or treatment and should never replace the advice from your doctor or other healthcare professionals. To continue providing this free information, I rely on your support. Follow, subscribe, like, and share this podcast with your family and friends, or on social media. Don't forget to turn on your notifications to stay updated whenever I have a new episode released. Educating you and empowering you to take back your health is my ultimate goal. By gathering knowledge and implementing small but impactful changes, you can reclaim your well-being. This is a journey, not a quick fix, so be kind to yourself, and I'll be there to help. You got this.